It started with a knock at the door that wasn't meant for me. I was in the garage, fixing a loose cabinet hinge, cursing under my breath as usual when small house repairs stacked up. I heard it, 3 sharp knocks. Strange, because nobody used the front door anymore, not even the delivery guys. Something made me stop. A weird stillness hung in the air, like the house was holding its breath. I wiped my hands, went to open it, but by the time I got there, whoever had knocked was gone. Only a small square envelope lay tucked between the door and frame, just barely visible. It wasn't addressed to me. It wasn't even addressed to both of us. Just her name, written with a flourish, the kind of handwriting you use when you want to impress someone. A tiny, reckless, electric panic shot through me. I stood there for a full minute, debating whether to touch it. When I finally picked it up, it felt too light. Like a secret. Like danger wrapped in a thin paper skin. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I left it on the kitchen counter, right where she would see it when she got home. And when she did, she saw it before she even saw me. Her whole body jolted like she had been caught stealing. Her hand flew out, snatching the envelope up so fast it nearly tore. She didn't say a word. She didn't ask, "Hey, what's this?" or joke about secret admirers. She just crammed it into her purse like it was some incriminating piece of evidence and muttered something about being tired before heading upstairs. I followed. Quietly. Heart thudding so loud I was sure she could hear it echoing off the hallway walls. From the crack of the bathroom door, I watched her pull the envelope out and rip it open with shaking hands. A photo slid out. Not a letter. Not a love note. A photo. She stared at it for a long, long time. Not angry. Not scared. Smiling. A slow, sly, intimate kind of smile that no husband should ever see on his wife's face when she thinks she's alone. I backed away before she noticed. I went to the kitchen, hands numb, mind racing so fast I couldn't grab onto a single thought. It wasn't until much later that night, when she finally fell asleep, that I realized something else. She had left her purse downstairs. And inside it, tucked behind her wallet like a hidden treasure, was that photo. It wasn't just her in the picture. It was her and a man I had never seen before, his hand pressed low against her back, her mouth close to his ear, both of them glowing with a kind of heat and closeness that I hadn't seen from her in years. Not with me. Not with anyone else. The caption scrawled on the bottom of the photo in that same fancy handwriting? "Can't wait for tomorrow night." I sat there, under the pale yellow light of the kitchen, the clock ticking too loud, holding proof that everything I thought I knew about my life was already gone. And for the first time in 20 years, I didn't feel sadness. I felt rage so pure it cleared my mind like fire clears a field. The next move had to be careful. Calculated. I couldn't just explode. No, that would be too easy for her. She was about to learn what it felt like to be blindsided. To have the ground ripped out from under her. And I was going to enjoy every second of it. The next morning I moved like a ghost through the house. She chatted about her plans for the day, brunch with the girls, maybe some shopping, she said, her voice a little too high, a little too casual. She kissed me on the cheek without looking at me. Her lips barely grazed my skin. A performance for an audience she didn't think was paying attention. I smiled back, the perfect idiot husband, and waved her out the door. The moment I heard her car pull away, I moved. I wasn't impulsive. I was surgical. I pulled up the GPS tracking app that we had installed years ago on each other's phones. For safety. She had insisted back then, smiling sweetly like she had nothing to hide. She had forgotten about it. I hadn't. Her car wasn't heading toward downtown where her friends lived. It was moving the opposite way fast. I got in my truck and followed, keeping enough distance so she wouldn't spot me. Mile after mile, she drove out past the city limits, out where the roads thinned and the houses sat farther and farther apart. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't pound. I just watched. Observed. She pulled into a gravel driveway surrounded by a thin stand of trees. A weathered 2-story house crouched at the end of it like it was hiding something. I parked off the road where she couldn't see me, engine off, and waited. 10 minutes later, the front door opened. Him. The same man from the photograph. Taller than me, younger, with that careless kind of swagger people have when they think they're winning. She ran to him. Ran. Not a walk. Not a cautious glance over her shoulder. She moved like a woman desperate for something, like a prisoner finally seeing freedom. He caught her up in his arms like it was the most natural thing in the world. She laughed, head thrown back, careless and cruel, like our whole life together had been nothing but a tedious job she was glad to clock out of. I sat there for a long time, watching the windows light up with their silhouettes moving inside, oblivious to the wreckage they had caused. And in that long, cold silence, a plan started to form. It wouldn't be enough to catch her. It wouldn't be enough to scream at her. No, I needed to burn everything she had built, every lie, every mask, every little smug laugh to ash. But first, I needed confirmation. I pulled out my phone, opened the recording app, and pressed start. Then I got out of the truck and walked right up the driveway. No hesitation. No fear. If she wanted a new life so badly, I was about to hand-deliver it to her, one brutal piece at a time. I knocked once on the door. Loud. Sharp. There was a beat of silence inside. Then quick, scrambling footsteps. The door yanked open. Her face drained of color when she saw me. Eyes wide. Mouth half open like a fish dragged onto dry land. The man behind her looked confused, stepping into view, shirt half-buttoned. For a moment, none of us said anything. The moment stretched so thin it felt like it would snap and tear the world apart. Finally, I smiled. Calm. Patient. Deadly. I think you dropped something, I said, and held up the photograph. The way her expression twisted, fear, guilt, anger, all tangled together, was better than any punch I could have thrown. The man stepped forward, puffing his chest up like he might say something, but I didn't even glance at him. He was background noise. Irrelevant. This was between me and her. And it had only just begun. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words tangled up, dying on her tongue. For once, Amanda, the master manipulator, the queen of smooth lies, was speechless. The man behind her put a hand on her shoulder like he thought he was protecting her, like he had any right to stand between us. I looked at the hand, then at him. Slow. Deliberate. Move it, I said, my voice low and cold enough to snap steel. Something in my face must have made him think twice, because he dropped his arm and stepped back without a word. She finally found her voice. This isn't what it looks like, she said, too fast, the words crumbling as they left her mouth. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. Not the kind of laugh you share with friends. Not the kind that means anything good. It was a sharp, broken sound that hurt coming out. You're right, I said. It's even worse. She tried again, switching gears like she always did when her back was against the wall. Tears welled up on command like a faucet she could turn on and off. She stepped toward me, trembling hands outstretched, face crumpled into a perfect portrait of pain. I was lonely, she whispered. You're always working, you're never here. I didn't mean for this to happen, I swear to God, it was a mistake. Mistake. A 20-year marriage gutted like a fish, and she dared to call it a mistake? I didn't flinch. I didn't back up. I stood there, letting her come closer, close enough to touch. And when she reached for my arm, like she thought she could still manipulate me into forgiving her, I pulled back sharply. Her fingers snapped closed on empty air. You humiliated me for years, I said quietly, toyed with my trust, lied to my face while you were crawling into his arms behind my back. The man shifted awkwardly, like he wanted to disappear. Good. I wanted him to feel it, the shame, the ugliness of it. Amanda's face twisted into something uglier than any words could describe. The fake tears evaporated. The mask slipped, fast and vicious. You think you're so perfect? She hissed. You think you're some kind of saint? I had to deal with you. Your boring, predictable little life. Your pathetic routines. You should be thanking me for putting up with it this long. There it was. The real her. Not the sweet woman who said she loved me at the altar. Not the smiling wife in the family Christmas photos. This venomous, selfish creature in front of me, this was who I had really married. And finally, I saw it clearly. No, I said, voice sharp as broken glass. You're the one who should be thanking me. For 20 years of loyalty you didn't deserve. For giving you a home you turned into a lie. For every single time I trusted you and you spat on it. She sneered, crossing her arms defiant. So what now? You gonna cry about it? Run to your mommy? I smiled again. A slow, brutal smile that made her take a half step back without meaning to. No, I said. I'm going to bury you. And when I turned and walked away, calm, steady, every step a silent promise, I didn't look back. Not once. When I got back into my truck, I didn't punch the steering wheel. I didn't scream or cry or shatter the mirror like some desperate man in a bad movie. No. I just sat there, hands steady, mind colder than it had ever been. This wasn't going to be a scene. This wasn't going to be some messy explosion where she walked away looking like the wounded party and I looked like the unstable one. I was going to make her own lies eat her alive. First step, evidence. Real, undeniable, ruinous evidence. I drove straight to an old friend, Mark, a private investigator I hadn't spoken to in years. We weren't close anymore, not since he moved states away, but he owed me a favor. A big one. When I told him I needed surveillance, recordings, everything done quietly and fast, he didn't ask questions. He just said, send me her number plate and address. Within 24 hours, Mark had already dug up more than I thought possible. Hotel receipts. Text message logs pulled from cloud backups she was too lazy to secure. Photos of her meeting that guy, his name was Ryan, apparently at different spots all across town. The brunches with the girls? Lies. The shopping trips? Lies. The nights she said she was working late on volunteer projects? All lies. Amanda had built a second life behind my back, and she had been living it with the kind of careless joy that made my stomach turn. Mark didn't even charge me. When he handed over the files, he just said, take her down hard, brother, and shook my hand. I didn't rush. I didn't call her out or tip my hand. I let her play out the rest of her little theater show. She laughed with me at dinner. She kissed me goodbye in the mornings. She sent me dumb little texts during the day pretending to care about my work, asking if I needed anything from the store. Fake, fake, fake. It was almost entertaining watching her dance around, oblivious, while I built the noose with her own rope. Meanwhile, I set up meetings. With a divorce attorney who didn't just want to win, he wanted to destroy. With a real estate agent who would help me quietly separate our finances and lock down what was mine. With my boss to explain, vaguely, that I might need a little flexibility soon for personal matters. Piece by piece, I was rearranging the chessboard. And Amanda, for all her smugness, didn't see a single move coming. Then came the second phase. Not just divorce. Not just financial ruin. I wanted her exposed. All those friends she bragged to. All those family members she smiled at during Thanksgiving dinners. All the people she carefully fooled into thinking she was some kind of golden-hearted, loving wife. They deserved to see who she really was. And she deserved to watch their faces change when the truth hit. I hosted a dinner. A casual one. Just close friends and family, I told her. Amanda was thrilled, or at least she acted thrilled. She flitted around the house, setting out wine glasses, lighting candles, putting on that perfect hostess mask she wore so easily. She had no idea she was preparing her own execution. Everyone arrived around 7. Laughter. Drinks. Smiles. Amanda floating through the crowd, touching shoulders, throwing back her head in carefully practiced laughter. I waited until after dessert. Until the wine loosened tongues and people relaxed. Until Amanda was basking in the attention, telling a ridiculous story about our last vacation. Then, as the laughter died down, I tapped my glass lightly with a spoon. The room went quiet. All eyes turned to me. I smiled politely, calmly, like I was about to give a toast. I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight, I began. It's been a beautiful evening. And I think it's only fair we end it with something truly memorable. I clicked the remote I had hidden in my pocket. The living room TV flickered to life. And there, for everyone to see, like a bomb dropping in the middle of a peaceful town, appeared a slideshow of the photographs, the text messages, the hotel bills, image after image. Her and Ryan, their secret meetings, their little notes to each other, all of it. There was a sharp inhale from somewhere in the room. A glass hit the floor and shattered. Someone gasped Amanda's name. She stood frozen, her face draining of color faster than a dam breaking. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. For once, the great Amanda had no story ready. No excuse. No lie polished enough to save her. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Her world crumbled in front of everyone she cared about. And I stood there, calm and whole, while she drowned. The silence that followed was violent in its own way. Amanda's eyes darted from face to face, desperate, calculating. She looked like a trapped animal, trying to find an exit that didn't exist. Her own sister stared at her like she was something filthy dragged in from the street. Our closest friends, the ones she loved to parade around for approval, sat stiff, stunned, shrinking away from her like she was contagious. Still, she tried. Of course she did. She sucked in a shaky breath and forced a laugh, brittle, sharp, ugly. This is all fake, she stammered, her voice cracking under the weight of the lie even as she said it. This is some kind of sick setup. No one bought it. Not a soul. The evidence on the screen was too raw, too real. There was no way to explain away the time-stamped hotel receipts. No way to dismiss the photos of her pressed against Ryan in parking lots, in coffee shops, laughing, kissing. She turned to me then, eyes blazing, mouth twisted in rage. You think this makes you look good? She spat. You think exposing our private life makes you some kind of hero? Private life. As if betrayal hidden in shadows deserved to be protected. I didn't blink. Didn't even flinch. You made your choices, I said quietly. I'm just making sure everyone sees them. Amanda turned her fury to the crowd. You're all going to judge me now? She shrieked, voice climbing, cracking, becoming hysterical. After everything I did for you? After all the fake smiles I had to wear? After playing perfect so you all could feel good about yourselves? The room recoiled like she had thrown something rotten at them. This wasn't regret. This wasn't apology. It was pure, undiluted resentment. She didn't hate what she had done. She hated that she got caught. She hated that the mask she had spent decades crafting had been ripped off in one brutal moment. Someone, I think it was her cousin, stood up and muttered, "You're disgusting," before walking out the door. Others followed, avoiding her eyes, muttering under their breaths. The crowd thinned fast, like smoke dissolving in the wind, until it was just me, her, and the wreckage of the life she had burned down with her own hands. For a moment, neither of us moved. The TV screen still glowed with one last photo, a blurry but unmistakable shot of her sitting on Ryan's lap, her arms around his neck, laughing into his mouth. Her breathing came hard, sharp, like she was about to launch at me. But I was done giving her anything. No fights. No shouting matches. No more oxygen for her lies. I just turned, picked up the already packed suitcase sitting by the door, the one I had prepared days ago, and walked out into the night without a backward glance. Behind me, I heard her scream my name once, desperate and furious, like a curse thrown into the dark. I didn't stop. I didn't hesitate. I drove to the hotel where I had booked a suite under a false name. I poured a drink. And for the first time in years, I slept through the night without waking up next to a stranger wearing the face of my wife. Amanda thought she was the storm. She had no idea what was still coming. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating on the nightstand. Calls. Texts. Notifications flooding in like a tidal wave. I ignored them. I wasn't ready to deal with the aftershocks yet. Instead, I ordered breakfast, took a long shower, and watched the sunrise through the hotel window, feeling the strange, unfamiliar weightlessness of someone no longer shackled to a lie. But by noon, curiosity clawed its way back in. I picked up the phone and started scrolling. Amanda, true to her poisonous nature, had already begun her next move. On social media, she was painting herself as the victim, sob stories about betrayal, about emotional neglect, vague hints that I had driven her into someone else's arms with my coldness, my ambition, my supposed obsession with work. She posted old pictures of us. The ones where she still managed to fake the sparkle in her eyes, with long captions dripping in false heartbreak. Fake friends chimed in, offering sympathy. Others, the smarter ones, stayed silent, probably feeling the weight of what they had witnessed last night still strangling them. Amanda's lies weren't meant for me anymore. They were a desperate scramble to salvage what little image she had left. She was throwing herself a pity party, but the problem was, after the truth I dropped, not many people were interested in attending. Still, I knew her better than anyone. She wasn't going to give up that easily. That afternoon, I received an email from her. Long, rambling. Half apology, half accusation. She admitted to mistakes, claimed emotional confusion, begged for a private meeting to talk like adults. The same Amanda I had seen curled around Ryan like a snake now wanted civility. Now she wanted to be treated with dignity. The hypocrisy nearly made me laugh. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer along with a simple message: prepare everything. No mercy. 2 hours later, Amanda called. Not from her number. She had probably realized by then that I wasn't going to answer her directly. She used a different number. Unknown caller. I picked up just to hear what her next move would be. Please, she started, her voice dripping with frantic sweetness. Can we just meet somewhere? Just talk? You owe me that much. Owe her. That word tasted so foul I nearly spit it out. I don't owe you a damn thing, I said, voice steady as steel. You owe me 20 years of my life back, I added before hanging up, ending the call like slamming a door in her face. And I knew cutting her off like that would drive her crazy more than any shouting match ever could. Amanda thrived on attention, on drama, on the tug-of-war of emotion. Indifference to her was the ultimate execution. And I wasn't done yet. The next day, my lawyer filed the divorce papers. Grounds: adultery, with full documentation attached. We moved swiftly to freeze the joint accounts, separate assets, lock down everything that legally and rightfully belonged to me. Amanda's world, the one she had painstakingly crafted out of lies and manipulation, was shrinking by the hour. She tried everything. More calls, emails, fake apologies 1 minute, venomous threats the next. She even showed up at my office once, standing in the lobby like some tragic heroine. Makeup perfect, tears threatening to fall. But my assistant, who had already been briefed, calmly escorted her out before she even made it past the front desk. I didn't even bother to look down when I saw her through the glass wall, pleading silently. I simply turned my chair, showed her my back, and continued my meeting as if she were no more important than a speck of dust on the window. Because that's what she had become. A ghost. An echo. Nothing. The real Amanda, the woman I had once loved, had died long ago. All that was left was this desperate, bitter shell trying to claw back the pieces of a life she had set fire to with her own hands. And the best part? I hadn't even played my final card yet. While Amanda scrambled to contain the fallout, I was already setting the next phase in motion. You see, it wasn't enough to expose her to family and friends. Not enough to cut financial ties, to leave her stranded while I moved on. Amanda had spent years building an image of herself, this glowing, charitable, successful persona, especially in her professional circle. And she leaned on that image like it was her lifeline. It was time to take that away too. I knew exactly where to hit her job. Amanda worked in PR, public image was everything to her. One small whisper, one well-placed truth slipping into the wrong ears, and the tower she perched on would collapse under its own rot. I sent an anonymous package to her company's HR department. Inside, neatly organized copies of everything. Photos, texts, hotel receipts. But I didn't just dump the evidence. I included a timeline, meticulously matched to company events Amanda had missed under false pretenses, claiming illness or personal emergencies while sneaking off to meet Ryan. Her employer valued loyalty, professionalism, integrity. Amanda, it turned out, was none of those things. I didn't have to wait long. A few days later, through mutual acquaintances and a little quiet digging, the news came back. Amanda was asked to resign to preserve her dignity. Translation: fired without a fight. No glowing farewell party. No LinkedIn post celebrating new beginnings. Just a quiet, shameful erasure from the professional world she had worked so hard to impress. She tried, of course, to spin it online, posting cryptic messages about taking time for self-care and reevaluating life priorities. The few people still orbiting her social media presence offered polite encouragements. But even through the fake smiles and rehearsed captions, you could see it, the cracks. The desperation leaking through. The slow, inevitable collapse. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I threw myself into my work, my friendships, my health, things Amanda had always quietly mocked as boring while she chased her petty dramas. The funny thing was, without the constant emotional warfare she brought into my life, I was better. Sharper. Stronger. The house? Sold. The shared assets? Divided and secured. The memories? Packed into boxes and dumped into a storage unit I never intended to visit again. One evening, I sat in my new apartment, a clean minimalist place overlooking the city lights, and sipped a cold drink while looking through the final divorce documents. It was done. Official. Irreversible. Amanda had fought it, of course. She had dragged her heels, sent bitter emails, made veiled threats about taking everything. but with the mountain of evidence against her. Her lawyer had all but begged for mercy during negotiations. I gave none. Why should I? Amanda walked away with less than she could have ever imagined. And even that was more than she deserved. In one of her last pathetic attempts, she sent me a handwritten letter. Real pen on real paper. Not an email. Not a text. The words were a mess. Half apology, half bitter accusation, just like everything else she had ever done. She rambled about how I had abandoned her, how I had set her up to fail, how deep down, she believed we still had a connection. It ended with a plea, please, meet me, just once. We can fix this. I tore the letter in half without finishing it, dropped the pieces into the trash without a second thought. There was nothing left to fix. Amanda hadn't just betrayed me. She had carved out the heart of the life we built and set it on fire for her own amusement. And I wasn't going to stand in the ashes with her, pretending we could rebuild something from a pile of lies. I wasn't just moving on. I was already gone. It could have ended there. It should have ended there. But Amanda wasn't the kind of person who could accept being forgotten. About a month after the divorce was finalized, I ran into her by accident. It was a warm Saturday afternoon. I was downtown grabbing coffee with a few old friends I hadn't seen in years, friends Amanda had subtly driven away over time with her passive-aggressive remarks and cold indifference. I was laughing. Actually laughing, a sound that felt strange and new in my own throat after so many years of quiet resentment. Then I felt it, that prickling sensation on the back of my neck. The weight of someone's gaze. I turned casually, cup in hand, and there she was, standing across the street. Frozen. Watching me. Amanda looked ruined. Not physically, no. She still wore her designer clothes, her carefully styled hair, her desperate mask of perfection. But her eyes told the truth. The hollow panic there. The brittle anger barely held together under a layer of cheap lipstick and forced smiles. It was all there. Exposed. Raw. She crossed the street fast, her heels clicking against the pavement in short, frantic bursts. I saw my friends stiffen. They knew enough of the story to recognize the storm brewing. I stayed seated, calm, detached. Amanda stopped a few feet away, breathing hard, blinking like she couldn't believe I wasn't rushing to meet her halfway. You're really just done? She said, voice sharp and cutting, no hello, no pretense. Like she had been holding the question inside her, feeding on it, letting it rot her from the inside out. I sipped my coffee, set the cup down, met her gaze without a flicker of emotion. You ended it a long time ago, I said evenly. I'm just cleaning up the mess you left behind. That hit her like a slap. I watched it ripple across her face, the fury, the shame, the helplessness. She opened her mouth, then closed it, grasping, flailing. You think you're better than me? She hissed, voice dropping low. You think you're so righteous? I stood up slowly, towering over her without even trying. I don't have to think it, I said. I know it. There it was. The final, clean severing. The words she could never twist or deny or bury. Amanda took a half step back, her hands clenching into fists at her sides. I could almost see the gears turning in her head, the scramble for some last attack, some desperate move to regain control. But there was nothing left to fight with. Behind her, one of my friends, a woman Amanda had always quietly hated, probably because she saw through the fake smile from day one, stood up and casually slipped her arm through mine. A simple gesture. Friendly. Supportive. But to Amanda, it was a death blow. Her face crumpled for a split second before she spun around and stalked away, shoulders rigid, spine brittle with the effort of holding herself together. The crowd on the sidewalk parted around her like she didn't exist. And that was the truth. She didn't exist anymore. Not in my world. Not in my life. Not in my future. I watched her disappear down the street without a flicker of regret. If she wanted to haunt someone, she would have to find someone else. Because I was finally free. Not just legally. Not just physically. Free in the way that mattered most, in the soul-deep place where chains used to be. Amanda was just another ghost now. And I didn't believe in ghosts anymore. After that day, it was like Amanda had truly vanished. No more calls. No more emails. No more desperate pop-ups outside my office or apartment. Whatever hope she had clung to, whatever fantasies she spun late at night about redemption or revenge, they had finally crumbled under the weight of reality. And I lived like a man who had been born again. The nights were quieter. The mornings were lighter. There were no eggshells under my feet, no tightness in my chest waiting for the next sudden mood swing or cutting remark disguised as a joke. I traveled. I rebuilt old friendships, the ones Amanda had slowly, methodically poisoned over the years because she couldn't stand anyone seeing me clearly. I dove into projects I had shelved, passions I had buried under the dead weight of trying to keep our hollow marriage alive. And through it all, something strange happened. I stopped feeling angry. The hatred, the betrayal, the bitterness, they had all been necessary at the start, like fire cleansing a rotten field. But now they felt like heavy coats I no longer needed to wear. Amanda had become a story I could tell if I wanted to. But I didn't have to. She was no longer a wound. She was just gone. Still, there was one final thing left. One last ritual. Not for revenge. Not for punishment. For me. I went to the storage unit. The one where I had crammed everything from our old life into boxes without bothering to sort it. The air inside was stale, heavy with the smell of old paper and lost time. I opened the first box. Photos of us smiling, empty, posed moments now stripped of all meaning. Anniversary cards with hollow promises scribbled in her flawless handwriting. Gifts I had given her. Gifts she had accepted with bright eyes and silent scorn. I didn't hesitate. One by one, I fed the relics of our life into a metal bin I had brought with me. And then I set them on fire. I watched as the flames caught. Photos curled and blackened. Ink ran and blistered. Memories turned to ash, light and meaningless as smoke. It wasn't anger that fueled the fire. It wasn't spite. It was release. I didn't need to keep proof of what had happened. I didn't need trophies of a war I had already won. Amanda could keep her stories, her regrets, her twisted version of the past. I was walking forward. Clean. Unchained. Unstoppable. As the last photo crumbled into dust, I stood up, brushed off my hands, and closed the unit for the final time. When I stepped out into the late afternoon sun, it felt like stepping into a new life. One where the past couldn't reach me anymore. One where my heart, bruised and battered as it had been, beat stronger and freer than it ever had with her. Amanda hadn't destroyed me. She had set me free. And for that, in the coldest, strangest way. I was grateful. It's strange, the things you realize once you're finally free. You look back and you wonder how you ever lived like that, half asleep, half broken, convincing yourself that loyalty was enough to bridge a canyon that kept growing every year. You remember every time you forgave what you shouldn't have. Every time you excused behavior that gnawed at your soul. Every lie you swallowed because it was easier than facing the truth that the person beside you didn't love you. Not really. Not the way love is supposed to feel. For 20 long years, my cruel, narcissistic wife spun her web of lies and betrayal. She humiliated me, toyed with my trust, and wore a mask of innocence. But karma hit hard, and I delivered the final blow with brutal revenge and a divorce she never saw coming. And now, standing on the other side of it all, I see everything with a brutal clarity. Amanda never destroyed me. She revealed me. She forced me to confront the parts of myself that settled for less, that clung to comfort over truth, that mistook survival for happiness. And when she shattered the illusion, she gave me the greatest gift I never knew I needed. A second chance. Clean break. A life unchained from her poison. To anyone reading this, anyone stuck in a similar place, doubting, hoping, bargaining with yourself late into the night, let me tell you something real. Love doesn't feel like walking on broken glass. It doesn't feel like swallowing doubts every morning and spitting up excuses every night. It doesn't hollow you out until there's nothing left but a scared, small version of yourself. Real love is fierce. Real love stands up for you, even when you're not looking. Real love doesn't humiliate you behind your back and smile to your face. And if you find yourself with someone who treats your loyalty like a weakness, who wears your trust like armor while they stab you from behind, walk away. Don't waste 20 years like I did. Don't wait for proof. Don't wait for permission. Save yourself. Save your soul. Because on the other side of the storm, there's peace. There's a life waiting for you, one where you wake up every day without that pit in your stomach, without that shadow over your heart. I don't think about Amanda anymore. She's just a bad chapter in a book I already closed. And now every day I wake up free, every deep, clean breath I take, it's a reminder I survived her. I reclaimed myself. And I will never let anyone steal that from me again.